Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we back in the room and back for our second, or should I say, agenda 8 on our agenda. So agenda items 5, 6 and 7 have been withdrawn for obvious reasons. Just like to welcome Johnny. Welcome this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. We'll go around the table just so we can do some introductions. So we'll start with Mrs. Maxwell. We'll go anti-clockwise, just for a change.
That's shocks you.
So I'm Councillor Maxwell.
Can you do microphone?
Oh yes, sorry. So I'm Councillor Dorothy Maxwell on NNC.
And I'm Pauline Woodhouse, and I'm an independent member of the panel.
I'm Councillor John Paul Carr from Northamptonshire Council.
Good afternoon. My name is Anita Shields. I'm an independent COP member.
Hiya, I'm Councillor Zoe McGee. I'm on NNC as well.
Afternoon. I'm Councillor Winston Strachan, WNC. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Fiona Baker. I'm West Northants Council.
And I'm Councillor Andre Gonzalez de Savage of West Northampton Council too. Thank you.
Ken Pritchard from Councillor for West Northants Council.
Russell Roberts, North Northants Council.
Good afternoon. I'm Jill Mercer from North Northants Council and Vice Chair.
I'm Karen Martin. I'm the Management Officer for the panel.
And Councillor David Smith, West Northamptonshire Councillor and Chair of the Police Crime Panel. Good afternoon. So, have any of the panel members got any questions about the panel's statutory responsibilities or process to be followed for the confirmation hearing as set out in the report at the agenda item 8? No? Okay. So I'd like to invite the Commissioner to outline the proposed appointment and introduce Johnny. Thank you.
Thank you very much and a very good afternoon to you all. Can I firstly apologise to the late change in the agenda this afternoon? I'd very much look forward to introducing you to my very preferred candidate for the role of Chief Fire Officer, Nikki Watson, so that you can speak to her and hold a confirmation hearing. Nikki has let me know she can't attend today for personal reasons, and I'm very disappointed, and I know that she is too. She asked me to pass on her apologies and to tell you that she, like me, is looking forward to being here to answer your questions just as soon as she is able to. I will be writing to the panel to ask for a new date for the confirmation hearing just as soon as possible so we can move things forward. So, to Mr. Johnny Bugg. Mr. Chairman, the panel and members of the panel, it's my great pleasure to formally introduce Mr. Johnny Bugg as my preferred candidate for the role of Chief Executive and Monitoring Officer for the Office of Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner. As you would expect, I ran a comprehensive recruitment process for this important role in my office, and from a long list of 18 applications, I interviewed 4. I'm pleased to be able to report that the candidates didn't make it an easy decision for me, as I had candidates from such a high calibre to choose from. Following extensive discussions with the panel and considerable deliberation on my behalf, the decision was taken to bring Johnny forward as my preferred candidate. As you'll see from his CV, you have been provided as part of the pack. Johnny brings to the role a wealth of experience from both local authorities, police and crime commissioner offices, and most recently at a senior level within the Home Office, where he's led the Fire Strategy Reform Unit. A key element of his work at the Home Office has been working on fire standards. As we have discussed at previous levels, the issue of standards and organisational culture is a key consideration for the Fire and Rescue Service both locally and nationally. I'm confident that John's extensive experience around community safety, police and justice and fire standards will stand him in good stead to be able to lead the office in delivering positive outcomes for the residents of Northamptonshire. Keep on keeping those who live, work and visit this great county safe. The panel today has the important responsibility to review my proposed appointment as Johnny as the next Chief Executive Officer. I'm sure you will undertake the significant duty with great vigour and insight, and we're happy to ask any questions that the panel may have. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Johnny, we have a number of questions, and the first question from Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Johnny. What interested you in the role of Chief Executive of the Office of the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner for Northamptonshire?
Thank you very much. Is that mic working? Yes. Content. So thanks for having me today. It's a real pleasure to be here and to meet with a new range of colleagues and partners. For me, I've been working in public safety for 20 years in a mix of national government and local government roles. And the Northamptonshire model here with police and fire and a wider range of community safety and victim services is really the sort of ideal version of that local public safety governance for me. It's bringing together that wide range of partners, actually looking for synergies between services, looking at how people can work together in an efficient way, but also in a way that really serves the community. So that was particularly attractive for me. I've worked on, I started my career in children's services down the road in Hertfordshire, then moving into central government where I've worked on youth justice, community safety, policing, and latterly fire policy. And actually I saw that there was a chance to apply each one of those in some way in this role, which really appealed to me.
Thank you. Next question from Councillor Roberts.
Welcome, Johnny. This follows on from that quite nicely, actually. How would you describe your approach to leadership and management, and how will you aim to apply this in the role as Chief Exec?
Thank you very much. So I would describe myself and others who've commented on my style through 360-degree feedback or what have you, would, I hope, describe me as collaborative. I'm very much, I think one sort of succeeds or fails on the strength of the network and how well you work with partners across the patch, be that in central government, between departments, or in local government, across the places and services that serve the community. So I would definitely say collaborative, networked, and my focus will be on both maintaining the strong partnerships that the office has built, as well as building new ones. I think there are new avenues that we could look to innovate, and new areas to seek to develop the role of the office.
Thank you. Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Chairman. John, could you tell us what do you see as the current key priorities for the Office of Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner? And if appointed, what will you take from your previous professional experience to enable you to support these effectively? Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's obviously a great wealth of delivery to date and some real positives to build on in Northamptonshire, which is fantastic. A great partnership arrangement between the PCC's, PFCC's office and other community and public safety services, which I think is something I want to build on. But I'd say my plan will be around three things. One, stabilising the team. There's been a changeable time. There'll be new operational leaders coming into place, and me as a member of the leadership team of Stephen's office. So I'd be looking for stability. I'd look to strengthen that partnership agenda further still, and really stress the importance of what we can deliver together. So stability, strength, and thirdly, innovation. I've worked in government policy around police and fire for a number of years now. And I think there's more that we can do and more that we can do locally. The PFCC model is rooted in that creativity at the local level being really key, and I think I'd like to help push ahead with that agenda. So stability, strength and innovation probably would be my watchwords.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Councillor Maxwell.
Could you give an example of your previous experience of working on development and delivery of strategic plans or policies relating to the community safety? What challenges were involved and how did you ensure a successful outcome was achieved? I have a second question which I'll ask after this one.
So in terms of community safety, I've been head of the Home Office's community safety team at one point in the past, and the plan there was essentially around introducing the Police and Crime Commissioner model. So that's a sort of national example. I'll do two if I can, one national, one local. When it came to the national piece, this is obviously a major change to the landscape of police governance at the time. Fire wasn't in focus initially, and I was the lead official in terms of working with organisations in each area. I ran a series of roadshows to try and really get to the bottom of how this could work, what the pitfalls were, and how we could make sure that the model was a success. So that was a contentious policy, but I think through running a really collaborative process that brought policing in, brought community safety partners and justice partners in, that collaborative approach reaped benefits. I'll do a local level one as well around community safety, which would be in Hertfordshire. I was the Director of Strategy for the Hertfordshire Police and Crime Commissioner for 2 years. During my time in the Home Office, I went out on secondment, not least because I was sort of struck by the power of the PCC model through that work, and I wanted to sort of see it into practice and to sort of get away from the distance of central government to something more rooted in the community. That work involved, for those who were here for round one of Police and Crime Commissioners, involved setting up a plan at great speed and establishing a budget due to the election and budget setting timetable. So I was able to, with the new Commissioner, put a plan in place and a budget and build some governance arrangements that really set Hertfordshire up for success. So a bit of national and a bit of local. And you had a further question.
Yes. How will you ensure that you would become familiar with Northamptonshire and the residents who live here?
Thank you. It's really important to me to understand the patch where I'm working. I've worked, as I say, in national government, but also in local government, in community services, children's services, and also in police and crime. And at each time, I've made it my business to get out around the patch as the first order of business. So I've wanted to meet with local leaders, those delivering local services, to get out on the beat with officers in the places that, and understand the different challenges between rural areas and urban communities as well. So I've got a track record of putting engaging with and understanding the community and its needs first, and I'd want to do so again here. I want to be out of the office as much as I'm in it, in terms of getting out into the community and understanding the challenges that your constituents face.
Of course, we're all different over. I mean, Northamptonshire is completely different to Hertfordshire, and we're a lot more rural, and and people out in the sticks feel left out sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand that, and I think there are some comparators to Hertfordshire here. In Hertfordshire, you've got Watford and Stevenage as sort of urban centres, but actually the North Hertfordshire area is highly rural, and a lot of the engagement that I did in Hertfordshire was about getting out into farming communities, understanding how we could use some of those community ties to cut crime and keep people safe. So schemes with horse riders, for instance, to look out for crime in the local area, and some of those particularly rural crime threats were in my sight. So yes, I absolutely get the difference between places, and I think that's again why the PCC model is powerful. We've got that place-based focus. It's not about central government diktat, but I really would want to get out and understand the community too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. So, Councillor Carr.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. What do you see as the key factors involved in enabling the Office of the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner to operate as efficiently and cost effectively as possible in a demanding financial environment, and how will you seek to address these?
Thank you. In terms of efficiency and effectiveness, I've got a strong background in governance, both in terms of local police governance, but also nationally I'm involved in board level work, as the Commissioner mentioned, on the Fire Standards Board, a lot of which focuses on those high standards of ethics and integrity, but also of efficiency, effectiveness and productivity. So I've got those issues in my sights. And when it comes to the office of the Commissioner, again, I'd want to land and understand how the office operates, where the frustrations are, and also how to make sure that it's a sort of smooth and well-oiled team pulling together. So I think I can apply that experience in governance roles at the Northamptonshire level and seek to run an efficient and smooth ship. I also want to invest in staff wellbeing, which I think often is a key factor in terms of people wanting to do their best and delivering for the community.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. So the next question from Ms Woodhouse.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, John. Could you give an example of when you've identified and implemented an innovative solution to a significant problem or need, and how you sought to ensure that it was successful?
In terms of giving specific examples, particularly of my time in central government, I'll be slightly limited by the fact that I won't be able to talk about advice that was given to ministers, which obviously is subject to confidentiality. But I'd like to give an example of something public that we did that was very focused on the front line in policing. So in my work in the police workforce unit, the role before this current one, I was conscious that a lot of the advice that I was conscious that a lot of the advice that we received was from the leadership of policing, and that we didn't have enough of a grip on what the front line felt in terms of police staff as well as police officers. And I think often police staff can get and fire staff can get neglected with the focus on the uniformed professionals. So I conceived something called the Frontline Review, which was working to the then policing minister to upend the way that we looked at policing and talk principally to those on the front line rather than to those running the leadership organisations in policing. So it was a sort of short but really innovative piece of work. I brought in secondees from police services. I brought the Police Federation into the team at the heart of the matter, because I think you need to work with the organisations that understand the communities and the groups that we're working with. And we did all sorts of innovative things. We were all over Twitter. There's a group called We Cops who run conversation groups that whereby frontline police officers will exchange good practice and ideas. So we sort of tapped into some of that energy to get feedback from the frontline about what needed to change. The result of this was a national report on the frontline experience, and the sort of the what next, the sort of so what of this was the establishment of a much greater focus on police well-being, on support to officers who are suffering with all manner of health issues, and also to look at things through that prism as a norm rather than reverting to what does the chief officer's organisation say. So it was a piece of work I was particularly proud of, because it sort of widened the voice of those working at the front line.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Whitehouse. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As councils, we're very focused on working together with our partners. So what would your approach be in building, maintaining productive relationships with local, regional and national partners, particularly when dealing with challenging matters in order to achieve good outcomes?
Thank you. I think that focus on partnership is exactly my focus. That we get so much more done together, and I know that's already something that happens to a really strong extent within the Police and Crime Commissioner's office. So I'd really want to build on that. I guess what I also bring to the table is links into national government. I've got a strong network with my senior civil service counterparts in fire, policing, justice, etc., and have been involved in how the Police and Crime Commissioner, Police Fire and Crime Commissioner model interfaces with all of those agendas. So I would bring that network to bear. I'd need to make some new friends as well. So I'd certainly be on the road, as I said earlier on, around the patch to understand the challenges faced by different organisations and different partners. And at the regional level as well. I mean, with strong regional policing arrangements in the patch here, and I'd want to look to build on that. But then the border is so varied, isn't it, in terms of Northamptonshire? You've partners in the East Midlands, but actually also in the Eastern region and others as well. So I wouldn't want to limit myself to that sort of geographic definition.
Can I just ask one more quick question?
Of course.
Sorry, that was why I was looking that way. You mentioned your work with children before, and you may not know I'm the Cabinet Member for Children in West Northants. So would you expand on your work that you've done with the Youth Offending Service, which, if confirmed, you would be a valuable partner of that board?
Thank you. So I started out in children's services in Hertfordshire, looking at exclusions and admissions and the sort of education arena, and then translated that into my first national policy role in the Youth Justice Board in 2003. I stayed there for a number of years working on everything from restraint in youth custody, so sort of decency and treatment of young people there, to resettlement from custody and the need to integrate people with community services, and more besides. And that really sparked for me a lifelong commitment to sort of children and young people's issues. And again, another reason why this office is so attractive to me is the focus on prevention. And so much of that is about working upstream with children and communities. I keep myself rooted in my community. I'm the chair of governors at a large secondary school, so that I have that sort of ongoing involvement with children's services locally. And I've been a youth magistrate in the past as well. So it's been a real common thread throughout my career.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. And the next question is from Mrs Shields.
Okay, as Chief Executive and Monitoring Officer, how will you seek to ensure the maintenance of high standard in the way that the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner and the office operates?
Right. Thank you for the question. So, having worked with ministers and local politicians over the last 20 years, this is really core business for me. That maintenance of the important dividing line between political leaders and myself as an advisor and as an official. So I'm very comfortable managing that boundary and speaking truth to power, as it were, and advising political principals about the implementation of their policy goals. So I'd apply that experience from working with ministers in this environment, but equally I've worked with the Police and Crime Commissioner, so I've been involved in the governance and integrity conversation at the local level as well. So I think all of that experience would enable me to play this role effectively. I think I'm also well versed in the legal framework around the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner role, having been involved in drafting chunks of it as well, particularly around the sort of partnership agenda, and also the legislative framework that brought panels like this into existence. So I'm very conscious of the important role that the panel plays in terms of support and challenge and scrutiny for the Commissioner and the operation of their affairs. So I'd want to work very closely with yourselves as well.
Thank you, Mrs Shields. Councillor Mercer.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This might be a bit tricky in view of your confidentiality aspects. Can you give an example of when you've been required to challenge someone at a senior level about a course of action that they were proposing and how you went about doing this effectively?
Yes, I think this might be where those limits come into play. But I would say that having worked with ministers of all parties and a range of governments and the coalition government as well. So throughout the last 20 years, I've got deep experience of exactly that kind of conversation. As a policy advisor, currently as the senior civil servant responsible for fire policy, I've had to work with a succession of ministers to advise them on how to achieve their goals and also where the limits and the lines are. I do that by understanding their political goals, but also the economics of the situation, what's affordable, what the evidence tells us, what's effective practice and what's sort of contraindicated, and also the sort of ethics and inclusion facets of a given decision. So I'm very happy to sort of take that wide appraisal of a problem and play it back to political seniors, even if it's not necessarily the answer that they want to hear. What I will do is look at solutions and how to implement my political principles goal within the bounds of those facets that I talked about: financial, legal, ethical, equalities considerations, etc., all playing into that. So that has rather been my bread and butter throughout time in the civil service and working for a police and crime commissioner, and I'm confident that I could apply that experience again here.
Thank you, Councillor Mercer. Councillor McGee.
Thank you. I have a question for you and then perhaps a follow-up actually. So if you're appointed, you'll be taking up the role of Chief Exec less than a year before the next election. How do you think this affects the operating context for the role, and how will you seek to respond to any issues or challenges involved? And just to add on to that, and how does that affect your current role? And then a follow-up, please. Thank you.
So yes, very conscious that I'm coming in, well, it's not a short while, but a sort of period before the election, and I'll need to be very mindful of managing the boundaries that I've managed in local government and national government around pre-election period, and sort of I'll advise the Commissioner accordingly in terms of what's possible and in terms of announcements and policy decisions during that period. So it's a context that I'm familiar with. I'm also very conscious that I'm not a political figure. I'm an official, as I have been throughout my career in local and national government. I've not held any political post, and I'm clear on the separation of those political and official roles, and we'll sort of guard and manage that boundary professionally and sensitively. And in terms of the current role, I'm not quite sure what you mean.
So are you giving up your current role in the Home Office? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So to follow up on that, I'm listening to this word that you said quite a lot, and the word is innovation. Now, can you give me an understanding of what innovation you intend to apply in this role? For example, the relationship between the police and fire service. How do you see that working? How do you see them as separate institutions? How would you see them working together? Can you give me a little bit of information around your ideology of that, please?
Certainly. Sorry, I'm still switched on. Absolutely. I think that's a very important point. The police and fire service are different services with different histories and proud histories both. So I don't bring an ideology that this is all one seamless group. However, I think there's more we can do to work together in the interests of communities. There's so much common ground when it comes to prevention of crime or of other sort of negative social outcomes, and prevention of fire as well. And I think there's more we could do in terms of supporting the community in health terms as well. So one innovation I'm particularly keen to explore is where the capacity lies for policing and fire and health to work together in the interests of communities. Yeah, that's one area to pursue.
Great, thank you. With your permission, Chair, I'd like to ask another question.
Of course,
if that's
please
okay.
do.
Thank you. It's my understanding that the communications between the Home Office and fire representatives and fire as a whole is actually one of the main reasons why the fire service is one of the only public services we've seen that hasn't gone on strike. Can you just give me a little bit of information on your kind of role and your background and your passion for that relationship between fire representatives, the Home Office and the leaders in the service? Thank you very much.
So I think, and I said earlier on in terms of bringing everybody to the table, representative bodies are part of that as well. In my current role in policing, I've worked with the representative bodies that represent those sectors, be it the unions that represent the frontline workers or those that represent the bosses. So, you know, the Chief Police Officers Association or, you know, the fire equivalents. So I'm clear that everybody has a role to play and that there's much more that unites us than divides us, and I want to bring that to bear here as well. I think there's scope for collaboration. If we look at that point about police and fire collaboration, there's mutual interest in pursuing an agenda like that, and I think having everybody at the table and part of the conversation is key.
Great, and having everybody at that table and taking note and using what they say as something to go off of, is that important?
I think there needs to be dialogue. Obviously, sometimes we've got different goals, but I think that there's more common ground than division between, say, police and fire.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Was a lot of questions there.
That's okay.
Thank you, Councillor McGee. So one from me, Johnny. Okay. If appointed, what relationship would you seek to have with the panel, and how could we help you in your new role?
Thank you. I've said before that I really value the support and challenge that the Police and Crime panel can offer. And I think the organisations that you represent and the communities that you represent, you know, it's a key way of those voices being heard. I would really welcome and value your support in understanding the communities of Northamptonshire and the partnership bodies and the history of the area, because that's, you know, that's very much your core business and hasn't been mine. But I'd be very keen to come out to you and to sort of understand the patch and its challenges. When it comes to the police and crime panel, to a degree, and I think this has certainly been the case in the past. Yeah, it wants me to stop. But where was I going? The police and crime panel is a key partner for the office, and I'd be keen to sort of maintain and build on that, and to understand what you need from me. What would be the interesting dialogue to have in terms of understanding the work of the Commissioner, but also the services that he oversees.
Thank you. Well, we're all enthusiastic, be assured. And the final question, or could be questions, from Councillor Gonzalez de Savage.
Thank you, Chair. Johnny, good afternoon. We've met prior to today, and I have no declaration of overlap interest there, but I have to say that clearly we met on many other occasions, and I know that you have been giving plenty of advice to ministers over the time, so I won't call you to give an example about that, because I've always been very interested in the content of that. But how would you represent success if you were selected and appointed today in terms of the role of a chief executive? And clearly you have a wealth of experience and depth, not just white papers and advisory policy.
Thank you. I think it comes back to that three-part plan. I want to sort of stabilise the ship and make sure that the new operational leadership team that are coming in are set for success, and that there's strong dialogue and partnership and a holding to account from the Commissioner's office to the services. I'd also want, in terms of what success would look like, I think strengthening some of the things that are already going on in Northamptonshire and making more of some of the great innovative partnership work that already takes place here, making sure that kind of cuts through, would be key. And also strengthening the Commissioner's role nationally in terms of how the Northamptonshire experience can inform national policy in terms of the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, the influence with government, etc. as well. And then the third part around innovation, I wouldn't want to stand still. I know that the Commissioner doesn't want to either, and I'd want to see us moving into new dimensions and starting to open up new dialogue with partners as well. So I think back to that three-part plan really. I'd like to see tangible change on all three limbs.
Supplementary question, if I may, then thank you. Johnny, can I ask you in terms of then what you would see from a 100-day plan, if you like, the very first 100 days, your top 3 hurdles, should we say, perhaps to overcome, or the top 3 ambitious tick box job done? How
Okay.
you would feel as well in terms of satisfaction of that?
Well, I want to, I'm still on, yes. I want to work with the team to develop that plan. I'm coming in with some experience, but I'm coming into a team that has a depth of experience and knowledge of the place and of the services and the partnerships. So I'm not assuming that I'm bringing the blueprint to bear, but I certainly want to, as I say, get the most out of this really integrated model, that public safety services integration that we have the potential for here. And I think that would probably set the climate for success or not for me. I'm still finishing off a busy job, so I haven't necessarily got my 100 days plan at the ready, but I've got 3 days between Christmas and New Year, so I'm sure I can have a go.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Johnny. Councillor Pritchard.
Yes, thank you very much. Probably the last question. Looking at your CV, in the past you've had an enormous amount of responsibility and significant other areas that you're dealing with. Do you see the new role as demanding and also as satisfying in the past? Because initially, looking at it, it looks as though it's a lesser role than what you're actually doing at the moment.
So it's interesting. I think it's a question of local and national. There's a sort of assumption that national level work is at the top of the pyramid, but for me, I think there's so much more we could get done locally, working in partnership. So I don't think this one really isn't line to it, is it?
It's far away from the centre or something.
Okay. So I don't see this is a promotion and a challenge. And a really exciting one for me. I've not been a chief executive before. I've been second in command. I've held senior positions in the Home Office, but within a wider structure. So yeah, it feels like a sort of a development and a challenge and a really exciting one.
Thank you, Johnny. Is there any? Would you like to clarify further any of the questions you? So you might something come to mind that you might want to. Come back to with any of those questions. You don't have to say yes.
No, I think I've given you a sense of myself, and I look forward to working with you all from the new year.
Okay, and have you any questions of us? Now we're all getting a bit itchy now because we turned the table.
I'll save those for the new year too.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So we get to the point where we are, for the exclusion of press and public, and we have some official words which I shall give to James.
Thank you. So, through you, Chair, the panel is asked to agree that under Section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business on the grounds that if the public were present, it would be likely that exempt information under Part 1, Paragraph 1 of Schedule 12A to the 1972 Act of the description stated on the agenda would be displayed.
Thank you. We agree? Agreement? Thank you.